Editor-in-Chief of the Independent Persian, Camelia Entekhabifard. Camelia, thank you so much for your time. I'll just give you the reaction from Germany, which says Iran hanging shows boundless contempt for humanity. And from the French government, it condemns in the strongest terms Iran's execution over protests. What's your reaction?
It's not enough. Greetings to you and good evening to the viewers. We needed a harsher, more strong condemnation and also an action, especially from Germany. We needed Germany recall its ambassador from Tehran or summon Iranian ambassador in Germany to speak with them. Just a sort of a statement and reaction, I believe, is not enough, and the regime can continue, unfortunately, to execute even more prisoners as they are planning for.
The government in Tehran says 200 protesters have died since the protests began. A human rights organization that monitors Iran and is based in the United States says it's at least 451 civilians killed and 18,000 detained. So that fear that you have of more executions, in terms of those who have been detained, there's a lot of prosecutions to come, I suppose.
There is not a fair persecution. The person who has been hanged this morning has been accused for closing a street, and his persecution, it was very short and brief, and without having a lawyer or the family being informed, unfortunately hanged today. If the regime said 200, we have to call that 2,000 people killed. If 460 people officially names are down with the human rights companies' activities, so then the number should be even much higher. Some of the families still have fears to have their name of the loved ones relieved, or some of them is still having faith their children are in prison. Iran is suffering from a very harsh persecution and also a regime abolishing the demonstrators in a very, very iron fist and fierce. If today the international community wouldn't come to support Iranian, we have these fears, more execution to come and long life sentences to be given to those people who are in prison. For example, is another medical doctor. He has been sentenced to death, and his wife is also sentenced to 20 years in prison. Both of them because has been arrested in a place, in a protest, at the street among of the protesters, where a Basijis or a private militia has been killed. We need to call for the Red Cross to send their associates to Iran for investigation, and he or she can meet with the prisoners.
Camelia, just briefly, if you don't mind, if the committee that the government is setting up to look into whether the morality police should cease to exist, and also if Parliament and the judiciary are going to look at modifying possibly the rule about women covering their heads when they're in public, if those two things were to happen, if there were to be a modification to the rule about headscarves, if the morality police were to be disbanded, do you think the protests would stop?
It wouldn't stop. First of all, the reason for the protest is the regime change. It's not about only abolishing the morality police or any correction at this law. Second, the regime never would be allowed. This is one of the pillars of this system, and abolishing this or dismantling that order means they accepted the protesters' demand and they understand that there would be more to come. I believe that this is the turning point for the protesters and for the system, and this is the main cause of the crashes. Both of them wasn't one to grant it, the other one what is it looking for.
Camelia Entekhabifard. Sorry, Camelia, I'll get it right. I usually do, don't I? I really appreciate your contributions always. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much. Good night.